All right, so hi everyone, and welcome to Roundtable 1 of 2 special Roundtable events that quantumhealers.com is bringing everybody on this, the Worldwide Regression Week of 2019. So what the heck is Worldwide Regression Week anyway? Well, last year in 2018, the quantum healers at quantumhealers.com decided that we wanted to pick a day where we would kind of have a tribute to all of those consciousness and reality explorers who did their work primarily through the method of regression therapy. So think about Michael Newton, maybe Brian Weiss and others, but of course, and as I'm getting chills all over the place, the one woman who comes to mind most is our teacher, Dolores Cannon, a teacher of all of us here. And Dolores Cannon's birthday is April 15th. So April 15th is a Monday this year, and we're going to have shows, activities, and events happening this entire week. And this one is kind of a roundtable event, and we've welcomed and asked several wonderful practitioners from all around the world. We have quite a little selection here to talk about one thing in particular, and that is, how has this work changed since you've started? And what's going on this year in 2019? So I want to welcome, and I'm going to do them just in order here. We have first my good friend, Harry Kroner. He is a quantum healer from Prescott, Arizona. And Harry's been with us. I wrote down the years that you guys have on your directory listing since 2013.
Yeah.
And welcome, Harry. So nice to have you here. We also have then Pedro Frias, and Pedro is from Portugal, and he's been with us since 2016. Nice to have you here, Pedro. And then last but certainly not least, we have the lovely Patricia Grootjans, and she's been with us also since 2013, and she is from the Netherlands, actually Middelburg, in a place called Zealand, if I'm saying that right. But I'm going to ask each one of you to sort of introduce yourself a little more than just that, and then we're going to just kind of have a conversation about the topic that I described earlier. So Harry, tell us a little bit about yourself, your work, and then maybe, an introduction about what you think's going on here just lately in the work of quantum healing.
Okay, so I'm Harry Kroner, and I've been doing regression work about 20 years now, so it's been a while. I'm doing the quantum healing since 2013. I love the work, and it definitely opened me personally to the higher realms and finding our higher self. And what else? I do this work. I have a master's in psychology as well, so I combine different aspects of myself and different things that I do to be really a catalyst of spiritual awakening for everybody to do this work and a whole bunch of other things that are related in my private practice. And I work also online, just like as we are right now. That's about it.
Super. Well, thanks so much. Pedro, welcome. So happy to have you here.
It's my pleasure. And I would just want to say hello to everyone in this roundtable one. Thank you so much for having me. And well, what can I say? I started this work around 2015, but prior to that, I used to study a lot of metaphysical, spiritual. I devoted myself since I was 18. I'm now 42. So I really devoted to studies. I went to the libraries. I spent there hours till today. And in my area now, what I noticed that I changed from the connection from the higher self to empowering the lower self. And that's what I do. I use a kind of timeline therapy. I will be happily speaking about that variation, but it's all based upon what Candace said, the Dolores Cannon method. I work in Portugal, and I do workshops and courses of hypnotherapy in different kinds, also clinical, around my country. Also been in Dublin this year and throughout. And so that's it. Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward for this wonderful meeting.
Me too. I think we're going to have a lot of fun chatting. All right. Last but not least, we have the lovely Patricia Grootjans, who's been very busy, really deeply considering her quantum healing work this year, because she's recently published a book, but I'm going to let her tell you that. Welcome, Patricia.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. And yes, that's correct. My book on quantum healing was published in the end of February, and actually on my daughter's birthday. And I started writing it 2 years ago when I was doing a lot of sessions with someone who came to see me regularly. And during one of those sessions, the higher self was giving me a lot of information. That often happens when the client is in a trance state. They often communicate with me as well. So I also receive a lot of information. And one of them was about timelines and changing the state of the hypnotic trance and working with a lighter state of trance instead of a deep state of trance. And so what I've noticed is that one of the biggest changes that I have seen is that people can get really, really deep results with quantum hypnosis while they're only in a very light state of trance. And I think that's wonderful, because a lot of people have huge expectations about having to go into the somnambulistic state, and which isn't necessary, as I have witnessed. And another big change is about the timeline. So I'm very curious what Pedro has to mention about that as well. I think Source is often giving information to more people and not to one person in particular. So it's good to see what kind of information comes through different people. Yeah. Let me
jump in here by saying, if a day goes by that I don't have to answer an email about the somnambulistic state of trance and having that be the goal, and that nothing of value can come unless you are in that state, I answer this question every single day. And I love it that both you and Pedro already have said is you're working with more of the conscious mind, you're working with in a lighter state of trance. This is one of the big things that's happening in 2019, right? So I will let you guys take it from there. What more would you like to say about that?
Well, I think it's,
sorry, go ahead.
I think it's about the thinning of the veil. I think that's really one of the important aspects of it, and seeing that people really do not need a lot of induction, a lot of processing to get into those wonderful open states is one of the important parts. And as I think both Pedro and Patricia mentioned, it's about integrating. I think that 2019 is all about integrating the higher self, or the higher aspects of the self, into the body and living in the body, and embodying our high consciousness, our bigger consciousness into this daily living. So I think this is one of the biggest things that are coming up, in my opinion. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, yes, absolutely, I agree. And I think the first time that I noticed this was when I had a client a few years ago, and she said, well, I can't go into trance. Whatever you try, it won't happen. And so I did everything that I could, and even I believed that she wasn't in a trance state. So, but I knew that the higher self would be present, because the higher self is not a stranger to us. It's always with us. So I thought to myself, if I just continue talking with her higher self, asking the questions, asking for help, I'm sure they will receive that and work with her, because that is what they like to do most. So she got very frustrated and she wanted to end the session. I asked her, please, I understand, but please let me continue asking the questions to your higher self and just listen. And she did. So when she left me, it took me a couple of days, 4 days maybe. And then she sent me a note and to tell me that all her questions had been solved. The few days after the session, well, she was not in a trance state and she was very frustrated. And yet everything happened within a couple of days after that session. So I thought to myself, what is it that makes this work? And I think it is the connection with the higher self and communicating with it, even though people think they are not connected with it, because we are always connected with it. So I think it's important for the practitioner to have faith and to continue, even while the client may be frustrated or not even realizing how this connection, how to recognize the connection. I think that's the most important thing. So I see a session as an activation and also as a way to show the client how can you recognize the signs that your higher self is communicating with you. So that's how I started thinking about light.
Yes, what I would like to say as well is that we get these heritages from Dolores Cannon, which is people have a lot of expectations regarding communication with the higher self, all this kind of magic that is supposed to happen when they phone us and say, I saw your name in Dolores Cannon website, so you have to do me a quantum healing session. This is terrible. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's a very high expectation. Now, one thing that I've learned, and sometimes on the course that we all have taken from Dolores Cannon, she mentioned one thing, which is subliminal messages, which is the silent induction. And she was a master doing that. And I've learned a lot from that, which is, she said, we are working with the most powerful force in the universe. This can do anything. And eventually what I believe today is that she's actually making the creative power of the person, the client, activate, because she's now believing that something huge is going to happen. And she would take 2-3 hours listening to the client. And sometimes that's what it takes to just break all these barriers of resistance that someone has. And it's different to come to just a practitioner than to come to Dolores Cannon. That is also a therapist in Portugal, that she has like an office and she goes to television. And I've teach one of her students, and he said it's so easy to work in this clinic because everyone that comes here, you just snap and they are in trance, and that's what happens. But this is what she taught us, which is to make aware that the client has all the power, and she used this wonderful way of saying all those things that make the client acknowledge that inner power. Now, regarding the timelines and the thinning of the veil that Harry was mentioning, I would like to say as well that I always believed that the veil was not thinner than now, is thinner now from where we are, if you know what I mean. Actually, if you think like Middle Age or when Jesus was here, he was up there and he saw no veil at all. Right. The thing is that now we are higher in our consciousness and we have a different level, I think higher. And so we feel and experience a different kind of a connection, a higher connection. So it's easier. But sometimes our clients come with a different kind of connection. And what Patricia says, it's absolutely true. We are activating a connection. And sometimes they miss the information that they should have in our conscious mind, which is what I don't do is call it the, how did Dolores say it? The stupid mind? Yeah? No, yes, you know what I mean. And that is the part that if it's not educated enough, it's going to always struggle to repeat the connection, and it's going to always need a practitioner to help them do it. And I work in a way that I want them to learn how to be connected always. So
yeah. So one of the things that I like to do with my clients is once they are connected, and they're connecting either to the spirit guides or connecting to their higher aspects of the self, I ask them, okay, so now please give, wherever the person is, give them a sign, a symbol, a feeling, a sensation that will really, so they can connect with you all the time, whenever they please. So that's a really thing that they can, again, knowing that they can, empowering them that you can continue this work. This is just a beginning. We're opening a big door here and kind of tuning into the right kind of energy, but you can do it from now on. And that's really important. And just to, also, I think part of working and getting in people into an easier space, I think it's a lot about holding space. And it's something that Dolores Cannon didn't speak so much about, but she was doing it in such an amazing way. Because you see, she gets, first of all, into her space, and you can see like the room changes. So she was, and we can call, I can call it now, opening portals and opening channels of the communication, and opening the room, making a temple of light, whatever you want to do it, and bringing those helpers to help the person, and then it just makes the work so much easier. Because they just are in the space. And when you have, and I think I spoke about a little bit about it, but getting into that level of confidence of like, I am just providing the space. I'm the facilitator. I'm facilitating their experience and doing it in a very clear way. We're opening here much bigger levels of dimensions and letting it just flow. And they just allow more information to flow, again, on so many different channels and downloads, and not only what's been spoken to us, but in the background, and all the healing that takes place without even us knowing.
So if I may, going back to exactly what we're talking about here, this idea of the somnambulistic state and a very deep level of trance versus the lighter levels that we now see are very effective. And actually, they can be considered more effective because if you bring that conscious mind along, then there's less of a disconnect. And one of the ways, and I too, you know, I've had so many years now, 11 years after first meeting, studying with, and practicing Dolores Cannon's method to really see all of this. And since I started 11 years ago, things are so much different with clients than they were 11 years ago. So think about this for a second. Dolores Cannon started this work really in the 60s, then in the 70s, got really going in the 80s, put her method together in the 90s, came up with this way that she talked about doing the method and talking about taking clients to the somnambulistic state. Well, yes, some of them did go there. No, not all of them went there. I promise you. I was one of Dolores's clients herself who had an astounding session and did not go into the classic description of a somnambulistic state. Didn't matter, right? But my point is more this. When Dolores first started her method, the somnambulistic state may have been more common. It may have been an easier way to talking about it because we were, just like Pedro and Harry said, we were so different even back then. And now in 2019, we are so much closer to our higher selves that we don't need that real deep state. And if I may just share, I've had some amazing dreams of Dolores since her passing. One of my favorite ones. She comes out onto the stage in an auditorium. Many practitioners know about the auditorium dreams or the teaching dreams of Dolores. And she came out onto the stage bringing this fella. He looked like a clown. He was kind of like this. He had this tall hat, and he was just, and it was the shortest dream you can imagine. Just, she walked him out onto the stage, and she said, Candace, she said, I would like for you to meet Mr. Stupid. He's there kind of doing this, and he's looking over here, and he's doing all of this. And I'm watching this, and then she says one more thing, and the dream ends. And she says, the first thing I'd like for you to know, now remember, this is a dream, so you can take it for what it's worth. She said, the first thing I'd like you to know now is to stop calling him that. And the dream was over. Now, for me, that was a very powerful dream, and it goes along with what my colleagues here have talked about, which is bringing the conscious mind along with, you know, integrating. We're integrating ourselves into these higher beings, right? So we don't want to demonize the ego. We don't want to demonize the conscious mind. We don't want to say Mr. Stupid anymore. At least I don't.
Yeah, the thing is that the conscious mind is actually the one that has all the power, because higher self could care less about what we do. It just allows everything to happen in a way. We know that we have the spectrum of what we should do, more or less, but there is a huge amount of possibilities and timelines to explore depending on our choices. So it's like the conscious mind eventually is going to choose wrong or better or worse, and so it has all the power anyway. So it's better to educate the conscious mind and say, listen, from now on you should manage your vibration better, you should meditate or just walk on the beach for a little bit more, and just try to connect with, because your higher self is connecting with you always through your feelings. Yeah, so you're definitely, it's 100% on point, that dream with Dolores Cannon.
Yeah, it's exactly, it's bringing kind of coherence between all different aspects of the self, all different levels, the conscious mind and super conscious and all that stuff. It's just bringing now, aligning them into and to be of service, and that's really the key here. And that's why I always recommend, and I do myself now pretty religiously, is to do like a daily connection, even if it's a 5-minute. By daily connection, make sure that I'm aligned and I'm on purpose. Otherwise, I do get off track, even just throughout the day. So, and I recommend to people, like, do it daily. Do like get a 5-10 minutes and just have all of you aligned to the same purpose, and things will start happening much faster and easier. Yeah.
I also noticed that while this shift is happening and people are integrating their higher self more and more, I've also noticed that many clients, they don't go to past lives anymore. They straight go to source, or they go through portals and they end up in another dimension, which you could not exactly call a past life. And often the higher self says that it's not necessary anymore to remember those past lives. And it's much more important to focus on integrating all those different parts into the now, but also to work with your future from the higher self perspective. And so many clients, they go to the future instead of to past lives. And I think this is very interesting to see what happens in those future timelines and how we have choices there, how we have many different timelines. I think Pedro just mentioned it as well. And we have several options, and it's about working with our conscious mind and how to choose those future timelines, and to do that with the wisdom of a higher self. I think that gives us the ability to create and to manifest the lives that we are looking for.
Pedro talks a lot about timelines in his work. And I wanted to confirm the fact, and it might sound cruel, you know, he said the higher self doesn't care. And it's kind of true. I mean, out there, people might think, what do you mean the higher self doesn't care? Well, if you think about, you know, the higher aspect of us who has all these versions of ourselves, it's like having, I don't know, you know, a flock of 1,000 birds or whatever, and you're kind of in charge of all of them, and they're all doing this thing, and maybe you've got this one errant bird over here who's doing its thing, but it's because of free will, right? It's because of free will. So through your higher self, then you can maybe dial in the experience of another aspect or another timeline version of yourself. And that's, Pedro, that's what you're doing a lot of, isn't it?
Yes, true. I also have a workshop where I teach without hypnosis how to work that mechanism. And there is a sentence that you just reminded me of that I always say to everyone, which is sometimes people approach me and say, I want to know what's my mission. You know, that $1 million question that we all have, like, what's my mission? Yeah. What am I doing here? What should I do with my life and all the rest of it? But I always say that if you don't throw out to the universe or to the higher self the intention and the vibration of what you want, then you're having this conversation with your higher self, which is you look up and say, what do you want me to do? And the higher self replies, what do you want to do? And you reply, what do you want me to do? And the higher self says, what do you want to do? You know, and this happens a lot. People don't put out anything because higher self just responds to your prior intention. And that's the weird thing to understand. It's that you have this map of million gazillion timelines and possibilities, and you just have to throw out an intention. And as you do it, you get the feeling in your heart, I wish to do this. And I use the labyrinth image, you know, like a labyrinth where your higher self sees from above. and you are in it. So if you throw out the intention to your higher self, you will say, turn right. And then you, at that moment, you are like, wait a minute, but I want to go there. And your higher self, turn right, because that's the way you have to get in the labyrinth to get to what you want. Because our conscious mind is made to analyze the present moment, nothing more. We can't use our brains to figure out what's going to happen or how it's going to happen. We just have to figure out what I'm feeling now and act accordingly. So as this connection with the higher self, we are kind of blind anyway. We are just following each moment by moment as we go. And as soon as the conscious mind starts making too much plans, like I'm going to do this, and then from this I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to be rich and then quit this job, which I don't like and hate, but then this is the plan because I have all figured out, and then they are unhappy. So this is a lot of the work that I do. I work in this idea. Of course, I got clients that are way off of understanding this kind of aspect, and I have to make this simple for them as well. So I work with clinical hypnosis sometimes, which is just create a light trance states and just put the suggestions there to make them, shift into something better so that they can be happy with their lives.
Yeah, I think you picked up on a really important aspect, which is it's the combination of, there is a general mission, and the combination with your free will and what you are, what your passions, what you really are, your inclination as a personality, as a being on this earth. And we all have things that we like to do and prefer to do more than others. So it's finding that balance between the two that combine, because sometimes when people get the mission and purpose, so some of them is like, work with children. And they're like, okay, there's only about 3,000 ways of working with children. Right, but that's your purpose, so choose whatever you like. And they find it like difficult, and they're like, why can't I just get a direct answer? But no, it's not about that. It's about search within yourself. Find what in your heart feels, what is coming in your way. What is the universe giving you as options? Are you creating as options, co-creating? So it is that part of co-creation that we are doing. So it's not only coming directions and orders from above, of you have to do this 1, 2, 3. It's about really finding that, and you're right, people have a hard time with that real freedom that they have in their choices in life, and coming up with their own path. So they and I find that usually I need to have some follow-up sessions for people to help them with the applying of all the information they received from the quantum healing session. And okay, how do I apply it? How do I really turn it into a daily practice and into really aspiring and finding what I want? So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How about this, you guys? How about, we've talked a lot about the higher self, the conscious mind, the integration of levels. What about information that's coming through from, from source or from other realms, newer information coming along just this year or in the last year or so, things that are happening new now that weren't as common before? Anybody?
Well, I have, I think it's a lot of it is different levels and entities on those higher levels that are coming through. So for me, I feel like a lot of, for example, dragon energy is coming now because there's a lot of creation energy with them. So they are coming and helping us in that. And for a while, it was we heard a lot of about the Pleiadians and the Arcturians, and they were coming from a bigger wave. But now I feel it's more, for me at least, I'm connecting more with dragon energy and slightly on that level of more ancient ones. So it really is as if like the flavor of the month kind of thing of what's coming up and what. And I think it's a lot more coordinated than that because they are coming with really they all have a certain particular obviously vibration and certain tasks that they have to do, and now it's more of these beings' tasks to bring more of this particular energy. So I'm hearing also, because I deal a lot with starseeds, as I'm hearing a lot of starseed origins that I just have never heard before. All kinds of universes, parallel universes, other galaxies, and they actually are a little more specific, giving names that mean nothing to us because that's how they call themselves. So it's really interesting. It's just, it used to be a very, very specific, like you had like, the 5, 6 different star seeds, but now it's like a zillion of them. And it's just beautiful to see that they're all gathering and doing this beautiful work and helping this earth and raising its vibration to our next level of our evolution.
Yeah.
Good one, guys.
I recognize what you mentioned. What I noticed is that it seems like clients, they come in cycles. Like, for instance, sometimes you have 5 clients in a row who all have sessions about one subject, one similar subject, or they receive the same message. And it's as if this happens like, exactly, this is the month of those clients and that message. And I think I have a lot of messages about water, for instance. And probably it's also because I have a connection with water and I'm very fascinated about water. And it's also one of the subjects that I write about in the book. And but of course, that attracts certain clients to me that also have this fascination about water and all the information that is connected with it. For example, one of the messages that I received about water is that people will find a way how to bilocate with water. Just like water has this ability to use bilocation. So this was one of the things that I was investigating while I received that those messages about water and bilocation and also teleportation. And this is so fascinating because it's already happening in a very minor way. It's like how people work with, I'm not sure if this is the English word, homeopathy. Do you know that?
Homeopathy.
Yeah, it's the same principle how homeopathy works because the water has memory and water can also send information to another body of water, like no matter if it is another river or another lake or another bottle of water. And if you understand this, then what happens with our bodies? I mean, our bodies are filled with water. So how information only by existing and having all this water inside of our cells? So this is really fascinating, I think. And this is one example of how information comes in, well, in a row. Like you have a lot of clients who come with this information. And I think Source even told me one day that every session that we do as a practitioner, it builds up the energy for the next client that will come to see you. So every experience that we have ourselves as practitioner or with certain clients, it will build up the consciousness and the energy for the next client that will come to see you. So I really feel that although we work individually and also with one-on-one with the clients, is also working in a collective field, because everything we do with one client, it changes the consciousness of all those clients that come after them. And so, and I even see this with practitioners. I've noticed that when you share a lesson that you've learned during a session, because we're such a, I mean, practitioners come from all over the world, don't we? And what I've noticed is that when I have a session about water, for example, another practitioner who's in Asia or in Canada would have a similar message that day about water. I've seen it happen many times. I mean, Candace, you probably have seen this too. And I think this is amazing. It really shows that we are working in a collective field. And it's not only about us as an individual, but we are also working with the collective consciousness. I think that's very hopeful, because that means that we are literally changing the world by doing what we do.
That's so beautiful. I'm so glad you brought up water. It's one of the reasons why the water alchemy portion of a BQH Beyond Quantum Healing session has such great meaning to me. One of the first messages I got from one session that I had many, many, many years ago. It was so big, it was so profound, and it was drink more water. Now, this was at a time when Dolores Cannon herself was saying, you know, minimize your water drinking. She would say to practitioners and clients, don't let them drink too much water before the session, because getting up and urinating, you know, during the session would interrupt things. And now, especially with BQH, exact opposite. Please hydrate your body. Both you and the practitioner, you're like batteries. You need water. This is a communication element. The more hydrated you are, the closer you are to your higher self. And I love that you brought up that you've had sessions a lot about water, and I have too. Water is so prevalent, and also, you know, other very elemental energies, and the sun is one of them. I've had a lot of interesting sessions regarding the sun, and the sun being a portal, and how the sun is changing, and the dragons. Yes, creation energy. Some beautiful, beautiful things happening here in 2019.
Yeah, what I would like to say about the information is that since I work with them in the lighter state, normally the informations I get, I apply them to their own lives, and then I regress them on this timeline to shift several events. But as I see it, I just want to say one thing, which is my take, my opinion on what Patricia was saying regarding the change in the world and the work we do, and those 5 clients that we get with the same kind of information, which is in our quantum fields, you know, all the construction that we are working as a practitioner, we are changing our belief systems, and we are creating this energy of getting the energy from the client and shifting and putting it back. And in a way, those people are reflections of some portion of us, because we are creating it all. So in some weird way, they are us as well, if you know what I mean. So if you get 5 people with the same kind of information, it's because you tune into that information in your fields, and those people reflected that somehow. It's obviously needed for them as well. But this is so hugely complicated in my mind, you know, as you look in this quantum mechanics applied to the spirituality and all these different timelines and combinations that are out there, that we'll never know what's real, completely real, or what is the real information, if you know what I mean, because it's all perspectives, different perspectives from the source. It's all valid, it's all true, but in a way it's also different at the same point, if you know what I mean. I'm sure you do. But that's what I wanted to say regarding that topic. Back to you.
Well, listen, you know, why don't we go ahead and welcome at this little break MJ Ollinger. MJ, here you are. I'm so glad that you are here. We've welcomed everyone else prior, but I would like to welcome my dear friend and colleague MJ, who I've known longer than, quite frankly, any of the others here. MJ and I have known each other for many, many years, and she's from Loveland, Colorado, and joining us a little bit late today. But MJ, why don't you go ahead and say hi to everybody, and tell us a little bit about you and the focus of your work, and also go ahead and tell us, what do you think is kind of new and changing here in 2019 in quantum healing sessions? Glad you can make it.
Okay. Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm dealing with some neighborhood dog issues, so I apologize. But having said that, yes, I'm in Colorado. I was very fortunate to be taught by Dolores in 2011, and I cherish that every day. I've also had the opportunity of going through the beta BQH, and I have thoroughly enjoyed that. I have a list of other modalities that I have as well. Professionally, I'm an RN and long history in medical care, critical care. So anyway, that's enough of that. But I bring all of my experience to my clients. And the changes that I've seen since I've jumped on board in 2011 with this, the types of clients that are coming in are far more awake than they were in 2011. And one of the questions that I had asked Dolores when we, it might have been a reunion, but anyway, I asked her, I said, how has her work changed over the years? And she said, you know, she talked about how she started out with the digging potatoes and talked about her books and stuff. And then now she started talking about the differences. Well, I feel like I'm doing the same because in 2011, people were searching and they didn't seem to feel there was much resources out there. And the type of people that were coming knew somewhat what they were searching, but wanted answers. So Dolores's work provided them with the opportunity to do that searching. Now fast forward to 2018, 2019, all age groups are still searching. They are more awake, they're more in tune, and they actually want to take action on information that comes through. And that's probably the biggest change that I've seen in the last couple of years. People are finally ready to grasp the information that comes through a session and want to do something about it. So ergo, you know, when you're with your client, and we can do some planning, you know, and assistance. And I don't do formal follow-ups, but I let the clients know I'm there for their support. And frequently, clients will call and have a question about their session or information. And they say, oh, and you don't charge for this? And I said, no. I said, we're here to help one another. And if this helps you understand the message that came through, and you don't have anybody else to talk to or don't feel comfortable, that's what, you know, practitioners are here for, to do. So I'll wrap it up with that. Thank you.
I think another important element in this is what you touched about, is the empowerment and how ready for action they're coming these days. And I see that a lot with especially women, which I think is really important to mention, that are really ready to reclaim their life and ready if they need to live a relationship that's just toxic for them. And they come in and they get the message they need, and they go and they take the action, and they are really in their power. And I love seeing that. I love seeing more and more women who are awakening for their power and moving ahead with creating the life that they want, that they really need, and not compromising anymore. And that's really something that's in the past couple of years definitely a strong trend.
You know, I love the fact that MJ has a medical background. One of the trends I've seen, of course, is we've always had nurses, but more and more doctors, actual medically trained doctors, dentists, holistic practitioners, chiropractors, people like that are looking into this work. They're not, you know, making a big fanfare of it because a lot of their colleagues still, you know, may be unsure of it, but this idea, the way we take care of our health and wellness certainly is changing. And I would like to ask you guys all this really important question. You know, MJ coming on board and talking about her history reminded me of it. Way back when, there were people who would come to sessions and they would talk about dreams they would have, or thoughts or daydreams about wellness centers. And that started way, way, way back. And people still to this day bring that forward. But back then, when people would have the idea, or even they would talk about it in the session, should I start a wellness center? You know, I don't think we were ready back then. We are just now starting to be ready. What I think was happening as we as a human collective I'm having giant goosebumps thinking about this. Even on my face, I have goosebumps. You probably can't even see them. We all want wellness centers so much. it's not that sometimes when you have a daydream or a dream about a wellness center that you yourself need to go quit your job, buy some land and try to make this thing work. I think it's more of this collected desire for a wellness center, and they're just now becoming something that may be viable as the rest of the world wakes up to be able to support a wellness center coming up and coming online here in 2019. What do you guys think about that wellness center idea?
Well, I can start first if no one jumps in. I think that absolutely more and more, I think consciously our global conscious is shifting into this more openness to focus within. And because we have to look in, it's no longer about treating your body. Because throughout these years, if we have a problem in our body, we would search for a doctor, and you would try to find what's wrong with the body and try to make him do another thing, which doesn't make any sense for most people now. They understand that diseases, it's all part of the same whole, which is mind, body, spirit, emotions, everything is all together. I also work a lot in the connection between diseases and emotions and personality. This is of course a topic for a different day, but regarding cancer, autoimmune diseases, what is the main characteristics? And I'm sure Harry can understand this as a psychologist, which has to do a lot with main characteristics of personality. For example, autoimmune diseases, that they cannot transform certain kinds of emotions. But regarding that, and leaving that aside now, I think wellness centers and a way to integrate all aspects of the human being, body, mind, spirit, and taking in considerations that we are creating the body as we go. It's a very important thing and very relevant for everyone.
I think it's also another trend about it is that we are now moving to more and more online centers or connection centers, or just like Beyond Quantum Healing has turned to be, which is a really wonderful community, but just more online. And it really helps us, I think, overall to create that globally, not just locally. I think that's the biggest difference in the past couple of years, because there's just everybody has better internet across the world, and we can really refine our interests. And I think we saw it also as more of us can do online clientele, and so I think that part of I've shifted from having a local wellness center to now I'm going to create more of an online source center of information and service. So I think that's another important part of that.
Yes, I also feel that it's becoming easier to integrate Beyond Quantum Healing within the wellness centers, because sessions, they don't take as long as the regular QHHT sessions.
Right.
And there's also a different thing with the follow-up sessions. I mean, with QHHT, I didn't have follow-up sessions, but with Beyond Quantum Healing, I do. And also, these sessions sometimes can be done within 2 hours. And so this makes it easier to integrate it into the wellness, kind of setting. Oh, that's my dog. I think I will mute myself for a moment. Okay.
And here I thought it was going to be MJ talking about her lovely puppy, but yeah, thank you for that, and about the wellness centers and about this being online. You know, this whole online community thing is so interesting because, of course, there's this real idea and concern, you know, with the whole gaming society and community and people living virtual lives, and some of that stuff is a little, I don't know, you know, I look at that and I know that we are doing this a little bit right now too, but we're also having real human to human connection here. So I think we as humans are kind of working this out. right? What's available online, what's viable online, what's possible online, but don't let that mean that you never feel the touch of another human being, because that also is very, very important, even if it's a family member or just some massage therapy, and of course the being in a body and being on the planet and having a physical reality too, not just one that's online. But as far as connecting with other people, we can certainly do that in this way, just like we're doing right now.
Yeah, for sure. It's like having not having mirrors, because people is what reflects what we are, and a connection is a way of reflecting back what we are and what we express. It's not. I don't believe necessarily that we need or we should have these needs for people or expectations to have people always around. But in fact, as we grow, as you become a better human being, you will get better reflections, you will get better people around you, and those people are reflecting what you are. So definitely people are important, and connections are definitely important too.
I'd like to mention briefly my very first client under Dolores's framework was a young man, and come to find out he's carrying information for our future. And I was blown away. And part of the plan was, when the timing is right, he would create self-supporting communities that focused on health and goodness and everything that we talk about, love and light and that. And it wasn't a kumbaya community. It was a working community that could support themselves and create a space of love. And, today's conversation really kind of triggered his session and what came through. And I'm getting goosebumps again, because, that's just one person. How many millions, perhaps, are people out there carrying information, waiting for the right key to turn and be flooded with truth throughout the universe, basically?
Yeah.
That is something that, and you can go down your roster of clients, and I've clients that connected. I had one that connected with Tesla, and I'm about falling off my seat. And I mean, they're literally having a dialogue, and I'm thinking, holy moly. And it's just, I don't know where else you can access that information, because just being in the third dimension is very difficult, and yet there's such an influx of beauty, of love and light that's coming in. And it would be great if we can do something through our group that would create an online bigger community. And I think that's very doable. I think there's so many wonderful people across the globe. And that's why I appreciate each and every one of you, because I know all of you don't live in the States. And I am always thrilled to hear what's happening in the other areas of our world. Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's
Go ahead, Harry.
just one more thing that I noticed, and that's trending in the past year or so, is that people are really awakening to their greater galactic nature and galactic understanding of who they are, on the greater aspects of themselves, understanding that they are holding much higher and greater powers, and they are manifestations of much greater entities and beings. And I think that's a really important aspect of awakening, as MJ was mentioning, to their mission, to what information, what gifts, what energies are going to bring to the world now and in the near future or far future. So it's really all kind of coming together in that way of bringing that the greater understanding of our cosmic nature.
Yeah, In Portugal, this is very interesting because here in Portugal we always have been a country and a culture that looks out to other countries. So I see, for example, United States news. We know everything about your president and everything that she tweets, and it's amazing. And England, what's happening with the Brexit, I don't pay too much attention to these kind of things, but they just come in, and as a Portuguese, we all know what's happening. But regarding what MJ was saying, what's happening here, interestingly, it's not about quantum healing. It's not thing that generally people know about, but we have this kind of thing that every community, like in a, let's say 10 kilometers radius, you have people doing meditations for groups in the night. For example, today you have someone doing a meditation and people go there, and there's some facilitator that's doing a meditation, and people just listen to it and connect. And I mean, Reiki and Hatmara and all this kind of healing work, it's amazing throughout all the country. And so, but in another sense, if you speak in Portugal about galactic origins or those kind of things, you're going to have a small percentage. I don't know if in the United States it's the same, since you are so much people, you know, so it's different because you have millions of people talking about this galactic origins, for example, and quantum healing and the Lotus Cannon. In Portugal, we are just 12 million, and that's it. So that is not a big amount of people talking about these issues, but you can see the difference from 10 years back. It's huge. Like everyone have been Reiki. Most people have, I have Reiki course. I know some healing work, and I've taken a hypnotherapy course. So it's very different, very, very different.
You know, I'd like to say that I'm doing this show from my little studio here in Augusta, Kansas, a very small town. And I thought a lot about it. You know, here I'm going to have this studio space here. And still to this day, 95% of the in-person clients that come here come from all across the world, don't really come here from this state of Kansas. And most of my sessions are online anymore, but I love this because I was literally standing in front of a little lunch shop right down the road. Could get some French fries and an iced tea or something like that from a little mom and pop stand there. And while I'm waiting in line, it's one of those outdoor ones, you know, it's a little hut and you eat on picnic tables, really campy, really 50s here. That's real Americana. And I'm thinking, is this the place I should have an office like this? Do you know, while I was waiting, I looked, I'll never forget this. I looked in the window, was put up with Scotch tape, that the weekly meeting of the UFO ET Society was going to be at Joe's place versus Earl's place or something like that. And I'm going, oh man, if that's in the hamburger joint right here, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be just golden. I also wanted to mention that Tesla guy, he's getting around. I had him show up in a session. I have yet to do anything with this video, but it was a video that I did not long ago of an online session. I don't even know if you guys know about this. I may have mentioned it on the forum. I had a woman, previous client, so she's the second time session for me. She and another practitioner who has EEG equipment. Actually, 4 electrodes were on her brain. They met someplace in Missouri, so they physically met. They lived in 2 different places. I did an online session, online BQH session, while the woman was watching the EEG machine, and then the camera was watching the client. Anyway, fascinating stuff, lots to talk about there. Why am I bringing that up now? 2 reasons: the news, Tesla, and Trump. Because how crazy is this? She had this amazing session. And you know, it was one of those sessions, you guys have had them too, where it's this kind of session, it's that kind of session, it's high level, they're in this place, they're in that place. It's, you know, it's different things coming through. Well, she'd had this conversation with Tesla, and there was some information coming through, and it was time to move on to the next scene in this BQH session. And she basically says, well, I'm, you know, drifting and floating to the next session. Well, Tesla goes with her. And she's not really saying that at the time. She does when she drops into the next scene. She drops into, she starts laughing hysterically. Again, this kind of proves this, not that it was a conscious state, but a lighter state. It wasn't the real deep somnambulistic where a lot of that kind of emotional projection isn't often available in that theta trance state, but definitely an alpha trance state. And I have the EEG to show it while this was going on. But Tesla takes her, they come down into the White House, down into a room where they are standing in a room where Donald Trump is. Tesla, my client, and they're watching Donald Trump talking to some people about free energy. Now, it takes a while for my client to even be able to speak because she can't believe what's going on here. She can't believe Tesla's there. She can't believe she's anywhere with Trump. She's completely not political. She wants nothing to do with it. Just like Pedro was saying, I kind of know it's over here, but I don't pay any attention. I certainly don't give it a lot of voice or opinions, or I certainly don't get in any debates about any of that. But here she was able to talk about what was going on there. And here was the interesting point. He was making an argument with, and we don't know who these other people were, but making an argument for free energy, for bringing it to the people, for making a change. And the one thing that was very, very clear about the session was happening in real time. It was like, you know, on a Tuesday or something like that. It was happening then, and she was watching this real time thing happening with Tesla. And it gives me hope for the future. We're actually about an hour into this show. So why don't we start there by asking each one of you, as we close and kind of close out, what do you see for the near and maybe long-term future, and let people know how they can get a hold of you. Whoever wants to take it next.
Okay, I can start. Just picking up on that timeline, wonderful thing that you were mentioning, and leaving it as an idea for us all. When we talk about the new earth and all these things that we heard before, I think that most people expect for the new earth to happen, but it's our job to go there individually. And what does this mean? It means that by focusing, for example, in meditation, in this picture of Trump doing this free energy speech, if we were there, how would we feel? What vibration would we have? And from that point on, locking into that vibration till we see that reality. That's way different from maintaining this reality where you know that it just does what it does, and the corruption exists and blah, blah, blah. Maintaining this vibration, waiting for the new earth, it's way different than maintaining the vibration that is matched to that reality. And this is the thing that we all should remember, because subconsciously and unconsciously, we always go back to where we were, because even our cells copy from the prior cells and everything. So we need to, every day, like Harry was saying today, at least take 5 minutes to just connect to what reality you want to see, for sure. So to finish, I would like to say this was an immense pleasure to be with you all. You can connect me through my Facebook. My name is there, Pedro Frias. Maybe in a different timeline, it's called Facebook. This timeline, it's Facebook. Maybe I'm tuning it right away. So it was a most wonderful pleasure. I'm in the community. I belong to Quantum Healers, of course, and you can reach me out on my Facebook through my name, Pedro Frias. Since my website is still in Portuguese, I'm trying to translate it all to English as well. So that's it. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to go next. Harry Kroner, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys. It's always fun to talk with like-minded people and people who have similar experiences. It's always a pleasure to have that shared commonality between us. I'm working right now more on the higher self, so self-mastery and being in complete openness to us. So I'm developing a program about self-mastery and living the life with a greater consciousness. I also do this work, so you can reach me at my website, harrykroner.com. That's it. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay. Well, I also would like to thank you all, and it really was a pleasure to talk with you on this roundtable. And I think the message that I got for the next coming year is that it's important to keep our frequency high. And I think this is also something which is important within the quantum healing sessions. It's about integrating a bigger part of our soul and creating this new earth while we are here in this body. And it's all about integrating the energy and raising our frequency. And I really like to help people doing that. And people can find me on my website, patriciagrootjans.com, or of course through the Quantum Healers community. And I'm also on Facebook, so there are many ways to find me. And I really like to thank you all, and especially Candace, for bringing this together and for bringing all those practitioners together on the forum, because I think it has such a big value for every practitioner. I think it's really unique the way we share things and how we learn and grow, and how everybody has its own unique talents and professionality, and how we all can learn from each other. I think it's really unique how the quantum healers do that on the forum. So thank you.
Thank you. And we're not going to let Patricia go without saying you can find her book, Ocean of Love, on Amazon.com. And thanks so much, Patricia. And MJ, you're next.
Thank you. I was just getting ready to congratulate Patricia because I mentioned in the forum the book was on the way, and I have it. And thank you. Thank you. It's going to be a resource in my life. Candace, would you repeat the initial question, because I got so absorbed in everyone's response that I lost track of the question.
Sure, I understand. This happens to me all the time. So I just, what do you see coming in the future, after, now, moment in time when we're doing this in sessions or in your life, and how can people get a hold of you?
Okay. The future to me is happening right now, because I don't live in a time box. So every thought that I have and every interaction I have with my clients, it's like the world just opens up and there's no time. There's only possibilities, and it's filled with very good high vibration. And I do my best through my practice to extract, not take away, but help bring that out in every client, because it's there. Every client that we interact with, it is there waiting, and if it's not waiting, it's already stuck its head up, like little tulips in the spring, just waiting to be blossomed and bloom and be beautiful. And I think everything is happening far more rapidly, and that's, well, we know why that's happening. So Mother Earth, the universe, everything is going. And Pedro, to get back to your new Earth, to me, the new Earth has never been a place. It's always been a state of mind and that whole vibration. And as practitioners, we get to have a bird's eye view, so to speak, into that new Earth with every client that we interact with. And so you can tell I love my work, and I also want to say that for those of you that don't know, Candace, if you could talk just briefly after I tell you how I get contacted, why you started the forum, because to me, that was like from the future thought on your part, you know, and now we're here talking about bringing people together in a community. Well, my exposure to the forum and when I joined and everything, to me, that's a prime example of all this. So in closing, thank you everyone for the opportunity. And my website is www.mjollinger.com or lovelandhypnosis.com. Either one will get you there. So thank you.
Thank you so much, MJ. And thanks for the question. So the Quantum Healers Forum got started because I was an artist and photographer who took Dolores Cannon's method of healing. It wasn't even called QHHT back in 2008. And I primarily, but this is the way it works for most people. I mostly wanted to figure out how to heal my own self, but isn't that the way it works? We heal ourselves before we can assist others. So I showed up wanting to figure out how to fix my own self, primarily physical issues, but of course we know that they are connected to psychological issues and emotions, etc. And when I took her class, I was so intrigued, and it was so magical, and so many incredible things happened. And she was just sending us out the door. Now, I had no hypnosis experience. I had my Reiki. I did have Reiki, and I had been doing Reiki for 8 years, but that's all. And there wasn't much after that for me. And I said, but Dolores, I'm gonna have questions. She said, oh, just call the office. I'll never forget it. Oh, just call the office. And I was thinking about that, but not more than a few minutes before sending us out the door, she was, I don't know, headed off to Russia or China or something. And I'm thinking, well, what's that going to help really? Should I call the office every day? I knew that wasn't really going to work. And so a few of us stayed in touch, but it wasn't enough. And not long afterwards, I just asked her permission. I said, Dolores, do I have your permission to create? And at the time it was Yahoo groups. And she was sweet. She answered me back. She said, yes, but only if you take care of it. Only if you run it. I don't want to have anything else to do. So, with her permission, I did create that, but kept her in the loop. And what I found was so much more learning, support, and increase in vibration than I ever expected. And then the synchronicities with the people on the forum started happening. And like Patricia was saying earlier, all of a sudden, in a single week, we would all go to the same planet or have the same sort of ET session or have the same kind of physical things coming in from clients, people talking about physical issues they wanted to address. So the forum for me has always been a place of community and help between others for those who are interested in service to others. But we work on ourselves in that way too, and we learn so much from each other. And the one thing that I'm careful to remember is what I felt like way back in 2008. I sat next to a guy who'd been doing hypnotherapy for 20 years, and I was thinking, well, he's got a shot at this, but what about me? So I've never forgotten that person, right? The person who really didn't know what they were doing. Not really. Dolores gave us, she threw us in the deep end of the pool, so to speak. But together, when we got together, we would share tips and suggestions, and so much love and so much support. And I started seeing it a few years ago, and I'm completely convinced our community there at the original Quantum Healing Support Forum community, it's just like unlike anything else I've seen on the internet. On the internet, often you have a lot of control, and you have a lot of people hiding behind avatars and a lot of, and there's really little to none of that in our community. And I'm so proud of us all because of that. So if you too out there are a service to others practitioner, you do not have had to take Dolores Cannon's class or BQH. If you're a Reiki practitioner or anyone who serves others in that way, life coach, yoga instructors, anybody who's serving others, service to others, that's what our community is all about. And of course, you can learn about the other methods and modalities while you're there, and maybe join us in the growing list of people who are offering beyond quantum healing across the world. So there's that. Thank you so much. So for my own sense of going into the future, the one thing I think I might leave you with is the connection idea that's been talked about all throughout this program today. But a session that I had just a couple weeks ago, monumentally powerful session with a man who's facing a very serious illness. And his team came through so strongly and said that his greatest power for healing and for anything else and for manifestation, his greatest power was truly living within the now moment. So that's not worrying about what's happened in the past. That's not trying to project and fix the future. It's living in the now moment. That's when you're the most powerful. So, and the now moment, focus on that situation, that health, whatever that you prefer while you're in that now moment. Thank you all so much. You can find all of us on quantumhealers.com. We've got a YouTube channel, started an Instagram account, so you can follow us there as well under my name, Candace Craw-Goldman. And for all of you out there who are celebrating Worldwide Regression Week and Dolores Cannon's birthday on April 15th, thank you so much for joining us, in the respect for all of those who are doing this work across the world. But thank you particularly to our wonderful Dolores, who started it all, at least for those of us here. Thank you so much. Talk to y'all later. See you next time.